The moon's night of vengeance must carry out your luminous will.
Are you seriously talking to the moon? As in, the cow jumped over?
There is more to the moon than childish stories.
If Khonshu ends up getting name-dropped at some point during this game's story, I think it's safe to say that we're in for a good time. But regardless, welcome back, true believers and all you merry Marvelites, to another very interesting Marvel's Midnight Suns related video. So while there hasn't been too much news surrounding this game recently, and I am fully aware that quite a lot of you are pretty skeptical as to what exactly this game is going to turn out to be, I still think there are a lot of interesting elements that this game could feature based on the type of game that it is, which just as a reminder, in case you forgot, is going to be a card-based role-playing tactics strategy game. And a huge thanks to the absolutely wonderful people over at 2K and the rest of the Marvel's Midnight Suns team for going out of their way to send me a beautifully detailed collector's box of all the currently known heroes that will be featured on the Marvel's Midnight Suns character roster. This is honestly one of the coolest things I've ever been sent, and I couldn't be more thankful and grateful for each and every single one of your support for actually providing me this amazing opportunity. But if you noticed within the box itself, out of the main 12 cards that are placed there, only 10 of the main heroes are currently known, with 2 other characters still left as a secret. So knowing that there are going to be more heroes to play as within this game, I thought it'd be fun to not only speculate as to who the 2 other characters within that current list could be, but also take things a step further and provide my very own top 5 list of the main heroes I think Marvel's Midnight Suns desperately needs. And given the fact that the majority of the current Marvel's Midnight Suns roster seem to be a mix of well-known Marvel heroes as well as some of the more obscure ones, the same logic is going to apply to my list, where the majority of them are well-known Marvel's Midnight Suns members from the comics, but also could be some fresh faces that we've never seen beyond the main team before within this game. And to begin with, probably the most obscure character on this list is actually the anti-Darkhold mage herself, of Victoria Montessi. Within the Marvel Comics lore, Victoria rejected her father's teachings at a very young age about the church that she was placed in, as well as the Darkhold and all of its power, which in turn made her seem unfit in the eyes of her father to carry on the Montessi name. However, after having survived a crazy encounter by assassins that were actually sent out by none other than Lilith, the mother of demons herself, who, if you don't know, is the main villain of this game, Victoria then decided to join the Children of the Midnight Sun. So while Victoria is clearly not one of the most well-known members of the Midnight Suns, she still played a crucial role when going up against Lilith, and does have a very interesting backstory that I do believe would fully tie in within the main premise of this game, and I could easily see her connecting with one of the other characters within the known roster as it stands right now of Nico Minoru. Although the same logic can apply to another character on this list, which in this case would be the first time he has ever joined the Midnight Suns team. But seeing that we already have characters like Iron Man and Captain America on this game's roster, this pick would actually be the least confusing out of the rest of the bunch so far. And in this case, I am talking about one of the best members of the X-Men team as a whole, none other than Nightcrawler. We already have 2 known X-Men members featured within the Midnight Suns roster as it currently stands, with Wolverine and Magic. So who's to say they can't add on more X-Men characters with what I believe to be an extremely fitting hero for this particular game and its tone, with Nightcrawler adding in even more flair to the Midnight Suns style. Plus, I definitely think using Kurt's teleportation abilities to simply transport from one part of the map to another when you are fighting enemies within the map's combat restrictions is definitely going to help out in several different scenarios, especially if you want to play strategically. You may even have the ability to teleport one of your teammates if they're caught in a pinch, so that way they can recover their health and you can also retreat if need be. And let me tell you right now that if he ends up dual wielding some swords within this game's combat, that is just going to be pure perfection. Even though I would think it'd be absolutely insane to control a character like Nightcrawler in a complete third-person action-adventure style game, I do think his inclusion within this type of game would still be pretty entertaining nonetheless. So as we move on to choice number 3 on my list, this is where we start to go towards more of the classic and much more well-known members of the Midnight Suns team that you should know full well from the Marvel Comics. And knowing that this game's overall tone and premise is going to shift focus more towards the darker side of the Marvel Universe, I definitely think that there isn't possibly a darker character on this list than none other than Frank Castle himself, aka the Punisher. Alongside of Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and Blade all being fairly well-known members of the Midnight Suns team from the comics, I definitely think that Frank Castle as the Punisher easily fits into that category as well. Now obviously, even though the Punisher doesn't have any major superpowers of his own, his overall arsenal of weapons and his extreme attitude definitely makes him a force to be reckoned with. We already know that characters like Wolverine, Captain America, and Blade are definitely going to be more of the close quarters combat type of characters that we can utilize within this game's combat system, and I definitely think that the Punisher would be a great fit for not only close quarters, but also ranged combat at the same time. Not to mention seeing Frank deal with things like demons and monsters throughout the story and have to bear with the other heroes he's teaming up with would actually be a pretty interesting experience to see unfold while playing this game. Now as for my penultimate pick on my list is directly dealing with one of the most well-known members of the Midnight Suns team, hands down, who should easily be able to fit the spot for one of these two secret characters or be included down the line as a possible DLC hero. Or I guess the better term in this case would be anti-hero, since we are directly referring to Morbius the Living Vampire. In a game that's already chock full of dark magic, monsters, and demons, I just don't see how a character like Morbius can't easily fit within this game's world. This would easily be a match made in heaven, or rather hell, considering that seeing Morbius interact with the other characters within this game's roster while also trying to go up against Lilith and her army of demons is just a recipe for perfection right off the bat. Not to mention that missing out on an opportunity for both Blade and Morbius to interact with one another would just be straight up criminal. And out of all the characters I've featured on my list so far, Morbius is easily one of the few who I feel fairly confident in saying will be included within the game no matter what. And as you might have expected, I do feel the absolute same way when referring to the number one pick on my list, which of course, if you saw the video's intro and thumbnail, you already know who I'm talking about, is obviously Mark Spector himself, aka Moon Knight. Without a doubt, Moon Knight needs to be in this game, plain and simple. If I'm being completely honest, I do think including characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Captain Marvel are pretty much waste when it does come to featuring the true core team of the Midnight Suns from the Marvel Comics, which does make me a bit scared that they might not be able to fully utilize other characters that we do see from that team within the comics lore and somehow incorporate them within this game and its story. However, just like Morbius, I don't think that's going to be a problem when we are talking about Moon Knight, as he's easily one of the best, if not the main, most well-known members of the Midnight Suns team. We're already going up against massive supernatural threats within this game like Lilith and her master Chthon, so I definitely don't think including Moon Knight and seeing him ask for guidance from the one and only Khonshu would be too far-fetched in the grand scheme of things. And out of all the other playable characters within this game's roster that we currently know of so far, besides Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider, I can definitely see myself playing as Moon Knight the most out of all the other heroes. And I definitely think that including some of the more well-known faces of the Midnight Suns team within this game, as well as introducing fans to a few new ones, would certainly make this game's roster as a whole feel more fleshed out in the long run. However, based on the type of gameplay format that Marvel's Midnight Suns is going for, I'm simply hoping that Firaxis Games and 2K will be able to deliver a truly encapsulating Marvel experience that all of us fans can thoroughly enjoy. And if at least one of these characters ends up being included within the game by the time it releases in March of 2022, I certainly think that's going to be a step in the right direction. But with all that said, everyone, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. Are you still interested within Marvel's Midnight Suns, and if you are, which particular list of heroes would you like to see be playable within this game? If I personally had to choose between either Morbius or Moon Knight, I would still go for Moon Knight hands down. But nonetheless, I'm still hoping that we'll be lucky enough to see both of them be included within this game. But until next time, true believers, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and without further ado, peace out.